Hey, it's Derick Gant, and welcome to the 24K Life podcast. We are here to serve you, make sure that you are operating at the highest level that you can possibly operate at. Now, because we do not have all the answers, and we know if you master your mind, you will always be free, we figured we bring on a mind mastery professional, Dr. Gigi. That's what I call her. That's what the internet says. That's what I've always called her. But, she might prefer to be called Dr. Hamilton. We'll let her tell us. She's an author. She's the founder of Personally Enriched, a consulting firm, and an all-around gorgeous and amazing individual. And I'd like to welcome all of you and introduce you to Dr. Gigi.
Hello, everyone.
You hear all the cheers. Dr. Gigi.
Yeah, on this lovely Friday morning. Awesome.
Hey,
Yeah.
every day for an entrepreneur is another day. Do you ever lose track of like what day it is because you're a business owner and you kind of run your own schedule? Do you ever lose track of days?
I don't. No, because I have to first thing in the morning look and see what's on the agenda just to refresh my memory, although I looked the night before. So
Mhm.
no, unfortunately I don't lose track.
Yeah.
Maybe on vacation though.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to lose track every once in a while. It might be, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today feels like Thursday, and you find out it's really Wednesday, and you're like, oh my God. So, I never lose track of what I need to do, but sometimes you just feel like it's a different day, and you have to look at your calendar constantly, remind you it's not that particular day. So
Yeah.
I am ready for you because number
Oh,
one, because I've known you for so long, and I've followed your career and your successes and your family. But I'm ready for you because the people that tend to gravitate towards me and what we do in the financial world and in our 24K Life community tend to really be interested in how they can level up, how they can do
mhm.
the right work. They're willing to do the work, but the right work. And, you present an interesting dilemma for new people that kind of come into our circle. And I think you can help them. And we'll find out. We're going to find out
Okay.
if you can help. I know you can help them, but my biggest question, and I'm going to ask it in a little bit. I'll let you answer it in a little bit. But I'm going to throw it out there just so you can start thinking about it. Is there's so many people that don't honestly know their place in the world.
Mhm.
They don't know their purpose. They're not real sure what they should be doing. They have this fire burning, but they don't
Mhm.
know where to point it. Or they're
Yeah.
not sure if they're going in the right direction. So I'm going to let you kind of dive into that from a mindset standpoint in a little bit. But before you do that, I want to know more about what you see as your purpose and focal point as you go out in this world to try to help people.
Okay. That's a loaded question. But I've been giving this some thought because as of late, I was just thinking about this when I was getting dressed this morning that I you put out in the universe what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I just literally got off of the meeting this morning, and the meeting was what I want to do. Here it is. And I got the call yesterday or earlier this week, and it's like, let's have a follow up meeting. And boom, here we are. I'm doing what I had thought about years ago, right?
Okay.
So um, the universe gives us what we need if we are just diligent in putting in the work, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
any sense.
No, it does.
Um, yeah. So I am. I practice as an organizational psychologist, but also a licensed psychotherapist. And I've spent over 25 years in the counseling arena working with so many different populations. And at the end of the day, what I really want to do is to create macro level impact in the world. I don't want to say I want to change the world, but I want to be a change agent in this world where I believe I have the skill set and the knowledge base to help people live their best lives. And that's what you're
Okay.
talking about. It matters to have people come to you, they're struggling, and you can give them the tools to get to the next level.
Okay. So ideally, given your skill set, because I have the same goal, right? My goal
Mhm.
is to impact 1 million families, which is not the world. We know it's 1 billion, but I
Mhm.
figure I'll start with 1 million
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. To impact 1 million families, but the way that I try to help make their lives better, the primary way is by helping them get their financial life in order, so they're not stressed out about their money, so
Right.
that they can then feel comfortable pursuing whatever avenue entices them, to fulfills them, touches their soul. So that's how I do it. And then, of course, I have the 24K Life community, where we
Mhm.
bring specialists and experts, and we talk about ways to improve your life. So I have this community, and then I have this specialty in finance. So in your specific profession, what's the way that you believe you can make a macro impact globally? You're so professional.
um, well, you do that by touching the areas that people want to change, right? Like some people, like you just said earlier, some people don't know their purpose in life. And right now, as we're still dealing with this pandemic, the pandemic to me has kind of shaken up our level of interest, what we're interested in, what we want to do when we grow up, what we want to be, what we want to consider doing in the next 5 to 10 years, because so many people are not surviving this pandemic, right? A lot of
Right.
people are not going to be able to be on the other end of this. So as we're seeing that and feeling that, it's making us really question, uh, is this the life that we want? Are we happy? Are we fulfilled in this moment? And if we're not, how do we get there?
So let's touch on a couple things.
Hmm.
What do you mean not surviving the pandemic? You mean there's a ton of people dying, or they just shut down? What do you mean?
Oh yeah, I mean, people were dying. You know, over 1 million lives have been lost in the
Right.
United States as it relates to
Mhm.
the pandemic. As a clinician, you know, I can say I've worked with plenty of people who have lost family members. I personally have lost family members, and I've seen people suffer from this. So yeah, people are, and it's funny because if that hasn't happened to you, you don't see the impact of that.
Right.
There was at one point, I think they were showing the numbers of deaths, the death toll, you know, pretty regularly. They were
Right.
showing that within the pandemic. And I apologize if you see my eye watering, y'all. I do have allergies, and so this lovely North Carolina pollen is on overload this morning. So
No
yeah.
problem. So
Hmm.
so what is now, I know, and I've already said that you're an author. I know you've written a couple books.
Hmm.
But how do you plan to accomplish your goal? Is it through the books? Is it through public speaking? Is it through just being your amazing self? But how do you plan to make a macro impact globally?
Yeah. So that's a good question. Right now, my plan is doing digital courses,
Okay.
right? To
Mhm.
That's one way you can touch the masses. And you know, I'm not opposed to doing. I do speaking engagements. I'm actually going to be in New Orleans in June at a conference, a women's conference. So I'm doing public speaking events as well. But I think the best way to really capture a really broad audience is the digital arena. um, Not opposed to television, but you know, it's kind of, I'm an extrovert introvert, so you know,
You can't be
it
hiding
wouldn't.
all those good looks and keeping them to yourself and your house and your family.
I know
All
it's
that
certainly a lot,
brilliance, all that brilliance and good looks, you got to
right.
share.
I do, right? So getting out of my comfort zone, right?
There
Which
you
is
go.
what we teach people to do, right? So I'm certainly not opposed to it, but I guess one of the broader ways and easier ways to do it is, you know, something televised, you know, but right now the digital healthcare arena does also give you the ability to touch many lives, both, you know,
Okay.
nationally and internationally.
So at one point, and I won't say originally because I can't remember original, but
Hmm.
you were really into helping married people. So you wrote a book about Let the
Hmm.
Marriage Begin. You wrote a companion guide um, to figuring it all out. And now you're saying, hey, we're really helping these organizations, and we're helping these individuals. Um, who comes to you, or who should or could come to you, and under what purpose do you uh, perceive yourself as being the go-to expert. So you're the GOAT at what?
Okay, they say that you're the jack of all trades and master of none, right? But
Absolutely.
I disagree with that
Okay.
because, and the reason I disagree with that is when you have time in the game, you have mastered many things over time.
Right.
Right. So I think I'm the master of several things, as you just talked about with the couples counseling and relationship therapy. I've done that for years. Love that. Over time, though, my interest has started to change. As a clinician, I ended up getting my PhD in organizational leadership, and so I wanted to again make macro level change. And so now my interest in getting into organizations, helping them streamline processes. Actually, it's not even that. What I do really well, you want to talk about being the GOAT. What I
That's
do
what I
really
want
well is, I don't know, okay, for the audience out there,
to
I
know.
don't know if y'all remember the old Batman and Robin when he would go down to the
Yes.
basement and he had the red bat phone,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So it's like, and I literally just had a red iPhone, but now it's white. But it's like I have the bat phone. People call this number and they'll have an issue or a problem and they call me to fix it.
Okay.
Right. So I have organizations that they'll call and this is what they're struggling with. And a lot of times it's in the arena of mental health, process improvement. We just did when the pandemic hit, an entire program for all the school systems,
Oh,
right?
excellent. Mhm.
Yeah, it's and that nobody called me for that one. We just saw the need because we had children, and
Mhm.
when the children were out of school, we were thinking, how are they going to reset when it's time to go back? And when they went back virtually. So we created a program called Emotional Reintegration, and it just really talked about what we don't talk about in our school day, but how do you emotionally deal with this? How does teachers deal with it? So we help the administration, the teachers, and everybody from K through 12, because somebody has to address the emotional backlash that was happening that nobody's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, because it's a word that most people aren't technically familiar with, and you said two different things.
Mhm.
You said that you're a psychotherapist.
Mhm.
Also said you were a something else,
Organizational psychologist.
psychologist. So you have the psych.
Mhm.
What's the difference between a psychotherapist and a
Mhm.
psychologist?
Well, and the reason I differentiate the two, so they're clinical psychologists, and they work kind of like therapists, but they specialize in more testing. They get to see clients, and they can't prescribe medication because that's a psychiatrist, but their arena is more focused on testing. So I differentiate the two because I'm not a clinical psychologist. I am
Okay.
an organizational psychologist, which means I go into organizations. And really, the specialization of being a psychologist in that arena is heavily based on the research that we provide and we do. So I do a lot of research on the back end to create programming.
Okay. And then the
Right. Um,
psychotherapist.
yeah, the psychotherapist it's a counselor, it's a therapist, and so that's when you have people coming to you. I do want to say this, a couple of things culturally, for people of color, just because of systemic racism and just not trusting systems over time, counseling has gotten a bad rap, and a lot of people aren't comfortable going to see a counselor. But what I will say is that over a period of time, you do have people of color as clinicians. And I think because we have some shared living experience that
Mhm.
I want to give you permission to go and just talk to someone professionally, right? Because at the end of the day, I think we all need couch time.
Okay.
That's what I call it. Especially with dealing with this pandemic. Inflation is rising. I believe we're getting ready to go. And you can talk about this from a financial perspective, but go into this recession. That's heavy for people, right?
Mhm.
People are struggling and not talking about it. So just to have a professional to be able to kind of sort some of those things out, I think is very important. So we all need to normalize talking to someone professionally.
Okay, I don't disagree with
Yeah.
that one at all. I mean, I
Mhm.
know that as a black man, um, I had to go to an extreme point before I sought out any counseling, and
Yeah.
because of the stigma. And then once I did it, and felt like amazingly better after, I don't know, it wasn't that long, but after a while, I started like sharing with some friends, hey, you have some problems. You might just want to go sit down and talk to somebody because that outside perspective, yada, 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 you know the story. And then you find out
Mhm.
that either they were thinking about going or they had went and didn't say anything because of
Mhm.
stigma or whatever. Even though it was good for them, they didn't share in opportunities where they could have shared or given advice for people to do that. So I agree with you. I think that I'm not sure why. I think it's a sign of, it's a perceived sign of weakness that you can't kind of figure out your own problems. And so people just tend to sit on them. And what percent of the population, and I think I know the answer, but I don't remember exactly, what percent of the population is on antidepressants?
Well, I don't have that stat right off the top of my head, but I can tell you the percentage of people that probably need to be on antidepressants and may not be on
Yeah,
antidepressants is actually pretty high.
yeah,
Eh, on one hand. On the other hand, there are other alternatives you can use to help deal with depressive symptoms that we don't really give enough credit to, like working out, right?
mhm,
There are some things that we can do on our own that really kind of activates our endorphins and our own brain chemicals that can help alleviate some depressive symptoms.
right,
And then you have different levels of depression too. So as it relates to, so that's a pretty broad question because
right,
sometimes can medication be a band-aid if you're not doing the talk therapy that goes with it,
right.
right?
Well, I love
Um,
your answer. In case you were wondering, I love the answer. Not enough.
uh-huh. Right.
Enough. So that's
Yeah,
interesting. So I'm not conventional. I'm all over the place. So in
hmm
in my research of always striving to figure out how to be a little bit better, how to be more efficient, all those type of things. One of the things that I came across appeared to be, in some cases, it was blatant. In other cases, it just appeared to be like hypnosis, like self hypnosis and listening to audio
hmm
tapes when you're going to sleep and
hmm
all those sorts of things. So people that are looking to improve themselves, they're reading self help books, they're listening to audio books. Where does that is that effective? Like, I think that they use it for smoking, I think. I don't know. But where is that in your toolbox of
yeah,
solutions for average people or people that are not average people, because these people are not average. They are trying to become great. So where's that
right.
fall in that, in your
I
opinion?
think I think it's another tool, right? As a matter of fact, if you have is it Amazon Prime? The Fire Stick. I think that's what
Okay.
it is. If you have the Fire Stick, they actually have on there, and I don't know how I found this, but they have it where you can make your TV screen black and you can listen to the sound of the ocean. They
Okay.
actually have it where they have hypnosis. So, hypnosis, those things work on your self conscious mind, right? So,
Mhm.
even when you're sleeping, it's still taking it in. So, I am certainly not opposed to it. I actually listen to those sometimes when I just need to kind of come down. I'll throw on the thunderstorm sounds and just have the black TV blacked out. So I love that they have it on your TV and you can just press the button and you can have it go for 8 hours. So it's there and it's just the thing behind the scenes. So I'm a big proponent of using any tool you can that's going to be a self-care tool that's positive because
Well,
they're also
that's what I'm
yeah
asking. That's really my
yeah
question. Do you think
yeah.
that self-hypnosis or hypnosis is an appropriate tool for people to engage in?
Well, I think you try what works for you. You try because there's this eye movement desensitization type of therapy, and that's dealing with trauma. So people are specialized in this particular
Yeah, I've heard of it.
trauma treatment. It's called EMDR, right?
Mhm.
And I believe that has a level of taking you to your unconscious conscious mind, and it works, right? There, it's evidence based. It's proven to work, especially for complex trauma. So you have to figure out what your needs are in order to figure out what tools you actually need to have in place.
Right.
I'm going to do another little shameless plug. I don't know, Derek, if you saw this ad I did on social media, but there's a company in out of New York, and they created a machine. It looks kind of almost like an asthma inhaler, and so you put it in your mouth, and it does this thing called multi-systemic processing, where it engages all of your senses to bring people out of stress and anxiety attacks.
Okay.
And I mean, I saw it during the pandemic, like when COVID first hit, it kept coming up in my feed. And I'm like, what? First of all, you get a little annoyed when ads keep coming up, right?
Right.
And I think you may have looked at it one time. So then it's like, oh, you like this, so I'm going to keep hitting you. And it kept coming up. So I finally bought it. And I bought it and I gave it to a couple of people in my life that I thought could use it. And then they loved it. So I started recommending it to my clients, and my clients loved it. So I reached out to the company and I was like, I love what you're doing. I love the philosophy behind your product. And I think we should partner, And so we've been working together ever since. But I say that because it's a non medicine tool that helps you deal with anxiety and stress in the moment.
Okay. So how does a person know if they should, I mean, at what point, and I know I'm not asking you exactly, this particular problem, that problem, but I mean, do you use a scale of 1 to 10? Hey, if you're feeling like you're 6, 7, 8, you should probably
Yeah.
be getting some help. And then the help determines, so do people determine they need this machine, or does a professional determine they need the machine and or any other help?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so the answer to that question is, when there's frequency there, right? When there's this repetitive, the symptoms of the problem. So there's frequency and there's also intensity. And there's
Mhm.
also, um, are the tools I'm using working? So when your tools stop working, then you need to go find some additional tools,
Right.
right? And so that product, I don't even think I mentioned the name. It's called Call Me Go. But that product, they're doing their own advertising. It's all over social media. I think what happens is, for the person who ends up out somewhere in public and their heart starts beating really fast and they feel like they're about to pass out, and they hurry up and get to their car in their safe place and they calm down, and that happens to them a lot. If
Uh-huh.
they see that commercial, they're going to think, I need to try that. I'll try
Gotcha.
anything to make that
Okay.
stop, you
Okay.
know?
So basically, you're saying somebody who's having a situation pretty much knows when they see the commercial that that might be a solution for them, so they should at least try it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, excellent.
absolutely.
So tell me, who on average would you like to come to you to help? I mean, who do you want to help? Like, who's your favorite client?
Right. So right now, I do a lot of work. I work with professional athletes. I work with like CEOs, a lot of top executives. I work with the people right now, and this is more doing, because I'm kind of switching. I do a lot of professional development coaching. I'm working with people that are really struggling with their current place in life, and they're trying to figure out how to get to the next level.
Okay.
Right. I'm just fortunate in that I get to use a lot of clinical tools, behavioral change models to help people get there.
Okay.
Yeah. Without it
So
being therapy.
so
Yeah.
you couldn't help any of my clients. I don't have any professional athletes or super CEOs. So
But you know
what
what? I mean, regular folk too. I mean, you have people that are mid-level managers, and they're like, you know what? I want to get promoted. I'm tired of seeing all these people uh, get ahead of me. I just know that I need to do this differently, but what I'm doing isn't working. So,
okay.
I mean, let me just not. That's one part of the continuum, but I really work with anyone who's wanting to change.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about procrastination.
Okay.
It seems to be if I could pick one thing that shoots more people in the foot than other obstacles, I would say is procrastination, putting things off.
Mhm.
So where does that fall in the toolbox of, I mean, like what do people need to think about, do? And I'm not asking you for one mass diagnosis answer. I guess maybe even how to understanding why people do it might help someone understand why they procrastinate. Like, I was talking to a client on Monday.
Mhm.
She is a therapist of sorts. She helps mothers and daughters that are struggling for the state. I think she works for the state. And so
Mhm.
she does this counseling with mothers and daughters mostly. And she was talking about her reports, and she says, yeah, I got written up. I've been doing this for 25 plus years. I've never gotten written up, but I got behind on my reports, and I knew I was behind, and they told me I needed to get them in, and I knew I could get them in, but I didn't until she got written up. And finally she got written up, and she knocked out, a month's worth of work in one night. And so then she felt great, kept moving. And I'm not pointing fingers at her, because I told her, hey, I had a state, audit for my investment company, and I had, 90 days notice that they were coming. And I said, I'm going to start preparing early this time. And yet again, I waited until the last week before I actually did it. And it was I wrote it down on my to-do list every morning. And it took everything I could just to print off the list. They send you a little list. Hey, here's all the stuff we want to see when we get there. Just to print the list took me, 2 weeks. But I knew I needed to do it. I've been through it 100 times. I knew it was a pain in the butt. And I kept prioritizing other things on top of it until I couldn't. And I don't do it all the time, but I do it. The things I just don't like doing.
Exactly. So I have two schools of thought.
Okay.
One is, I'm going to make up a term. Okay. I'm making up
made up words.
Okay. So I think many of us suffer from, this is my made up term now, socially acquired attention deficit disorder.
Okay. I can definitely understand that.
And I say socially acquired because we've learned to stay here. We've learned to do all this multitasking, right? And so I can certainly say I've self-diagnosed myself with attention deficit disorder. And that comes with some things. To me, it's a superpower on one hand, because it allows me to do multiple things. But when it comes to menial tasks, as you're talking about, like writing reports, takes me hours, and the procrastination is there because I don't want to do it, right? So I completely understand what you're saying. So I'd say a lot of it is just that attention deficit place. You put your energy where you want it to be, and writing reports takes time. It's, so it's one of those things. So that's why you put it off. Doing homework, things like that. So then you really have to really rediscipline yourself in that way to come up with a plan that works for you, so that you don't end up getting written up. Right. The other thing I would say about procrastination is there's this, I said I wasn't going to throw out all these clinical terms, but there's this trans-theoretical model of change, right? There's this change process, and it talks about pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance, right? Whenever we're going to do something in our lives, we go through this process. Well, when you have something to do and you don't really want to do it, I think you get stuck in that pre-contemplation, contemplation place, and it takes you forever to get to action. Okay. Right? So we sit there for a long time. And even in doing menial tasks, I think that's where we live.
Okay. So yeah. I hear you, and I don't disagree with that. So let me ask you about your position on motivation. What do you think about motivation? And I can ask a more detailed question, but I don't want to give away my feelings about motivation.
Well, I just took a personality assessment, and which one was it? Oh, I've taken a couple of them recently, but I just took the DISC assessment. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but what it measures is there's 4 personality types that you could have, and one is dominance, the I is influence, the S is steady, and the C is conscientious, right? So they're very different personality types. And I'm a high I. My influence was off the charts. And so as you talk about motivation, I believe that motivation changes the world, right? Okay. Because I motivate people every day. One of my gifts is I see the great in you that you don't see in yourself, and I help you pull that out.
Excellent.
I don't know how to, I always forget to write that, but I know that that's one of the, like to put it down somewhere, but I know that's one of the things that I do very well, just in conversation.
You're a branding specialist. I'll send it to you after this meeting. I'll send you some notes, reminders.
Exactly, because don't ask me what I do, right? Because I'm not the best at talking about it, but I do know that that's one of the things that I do really well. And so when you talk about motivating, sometimes people need to get permission, get permission to live in their greatness, get permission to not be perfectionists, and so they only get that from someone who gives them that language, gives them that information.
Right. Man, I wonder why we're so screwed up. I mean, what does it take to get us in the right spot? And that is not a real question. Don't even try to answer it.
Right,
Oh,
right.
so I love this because I get more questions off of your answers. So my next question. Well, let me tell you about my thing about motivation. I'm motivated, as you already know. I go out, I do speaking, I do all the fun stuff.
Mhm,
But the problem with it, I've always analyzed the problem like church. So you
mhm,
go to church, and in our culture, you go to church and we hoop and holler, and the choir does their thing, and the pastor does his thing, and half the congregation falls out from being so excited and
mhm,
overwhelmed with potential joy. And then on Monday, they go to work and they do
mhm.
everything they can not to cuss their boss out.
Yes.
So
Mhm,
I believe that external motivation is fleeting at best,
mhm.
and that people need more habits to help them stay in their joy or on their path, because motivation is waning. I don't disagree with you. You're an amazing influencer, amazing motivator, but man, I don't get to wake up next to you every day. And I
Mhm.
know you produced on social media, and I know that the things are available. Um, but I try to encourage people to create habits that keep them in a space that keeps them happy. Because,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, I have a whole entendre in my book, which is no shameless plug, is behind me. And I do have your book, by the way. When I called you to
Uh-huh.
interview you, I said, "Where's that book?" It was, I swear, it
Mhm.
was right on my coffee table. There are like two
Oh,
books on my
good.
coffee table. One of them was yours. So, and it's not like I don't have a ton of books. So, I don't know
Uh-huh.
what it's about, but it's been there for years.
Mhm.
So, um, but my point is that I encourage people to have their tools of motivation to change their state of mind when they find themselves in an unwanted state. But as an ongoing basis, it seems to be kind of overkill because everybody thinks they're a motivational inspirer. I mean, you go to social media and everybody's got a meme and a post and this.
Yeah.
I was looking this morning, and I am not. I swear to you. Luckily, I do not have the social media attention deficit because I don't look at that stuff to save my life unless I have to. I even
Yeah.
have a social media person that posts for me because I just
Mhm.
do it. I mean, I'll do it one
Yeah.
day, I won't do it for another week.
Yeah.
So consistency is key. One of those habits, right? Instead of someday I'll be motivated to do it, some days I'm not. So I said, you know what? I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make it
Yeah.
happen, and I'm going to hire somebody to do it. And so
Yep.
I invested. I won't say it's an expense; it's an investment to keep me out
Yeah.
and about. But back to the point. And so, we do think that I do think that motivation is amazing. I think you need tools to get you where you want to be when you're down, but day in and day out, you need some great habits because the pastor ain't coming to work with you to pray for your boss when they strangling you with work and all those type of things. So that's my opinion about motivation, in case you're curious.
Well, what else I was thinking about too, as you were saying that, I think if we're going to work Monday morning and we're doing it just to pay the bills, to make
Mhm.
ends meet,
Yep.
and not living in our purpose, then we're struggling. So it doesn't matter how much someone is motivating you. If your why doesn't fulfill you, then you're going to be struggling.
So that's the original thing I asked you, or I said I was going to
Mhm.
ask you. I personally think a major portion of most people that have a 9 to 5 struggle with that. I think
Mhm.
more struggle than more that don't. And that is,
Mhm.
what is their purpose? What is their why when they don't technically feel that they have some obvious unique gifts? I mean, I've been thinking about money since, you know, when I was a little kid, our pastor said in the pulpit that all lawyers were liars, and I wanted to be a lawyer. Little kid, what do you want to be? Fireman, policeman? I want to be a lawyer. Don't ask me why.
Mhm.
I had no idea.
Mhm.
And he said all
Mhm.
lawyers were liars, and my little innocent sponge brain says, "Well, I can't be a liar, so I got to do something else." And pretty much my next thing was I want to be an investment guy, and
Mm.
we're talking 10, 11. So I've been doing in my head what I've been doing my whole life. So I don't have to worry about my purpose because I know it's to help people be financially free so that they can tap into their gifts or have more room and freedom to tap into their gifts, whatever that is. But how is there something? This leads into my other question, which was you mentioned assessment. So how can people find their purpose? And is it through taking assessments, or by what measure would you coach somebody that's you say, for instance, you said, well, I help like even a middle manager, Derek, I can help a middle manager. They want to get promoted. Well, everybody wants to get promoted. What if they want the promotion, but it's not really what they want to do?
Right. So then that maybe is switching industries, because that's the other thing, right? So we spend time figuring out what gives you joy, and it may be playing with the kids, at the softball games, is the thing that gives you joy. So then we end up making the connection, right? Another thing that happens when you're working with people, when I'm working with people, is I start to see puzzle pieces come together that other people may not see, right?
Exactly. And the
Um,
person themselves can't see.
yeah, exactly, right. Um, but I wanted to go back to what you were talking about when you said at 10 or 11 you had become you thought about being in investment finance and things like that, and so you ended up becoming that. When I was in my 20s, living in Toledo, I man, I went to BG, and I ended up almost flunking out because I didn't understand the value of school at that time. So I moved to Chicago, came back to Toledo. Uh, on my car, my license plates, and I don't know if you remember this, but my license plates, I had some personalized license plates, and they said "in demand," right? And
Yep,
people
I
used to
remember.
call me that. Yeah, they used to call me that. That was my name a lot. And in my 20s, although I didn't know what I was going to do at that time, though, I knew that that's what I was going to be. I mean,
Okay.
I saw that I was going to be the person that people picked up the phone to call for whatever that was going to be.
Okay.
Um, and so my point is, as you're saying, is sometimes we have to live in something and manifest it, even though we don't see the full picture. So I just
Yeah.
kind of wanted to throw that out for people,
Okay.
because there are a lot of people who sometimes kind of, I know I want to be a public speaker, or I know I want to work with children, whatever it may be, and they just don't see how they're going to get there. So sometimes they let that dream die.
Right.
And so we
Yeah,
don't want to do that.
I don't disagree. So let's talk about the assessment. Now, you
Yes.
are this amazing expert at
Mhm.
this seriously intense information. And after so many years of being in, you've probably taken 1,000 of these because I know that you just didn't decide to take this DISC personality test. So why?
Mhm.
So I want to ask why you're taking them, because I know you know yourself. So why are you
Mhm.
taking them? And then the second part of that question is that a tool that a lot of people, most people looking to level up should find an assessment tool? I know we offer a couple of assessment tools, but not personality assessment tools, more financial and goal setting type thing. So first question, why
Yeah.
are you taking assessments?
Because I end up in all these different programs, right? So the assessments aren't even for my own personal
Gotcha.
experience. Yeah, I have a program I'm getting ready to end up going to DC to be a part of. It's this huge mastermind group, and so they had the few people that are in the program to take this assessment,
Gotcha.
right? The other one, I took one for, I was a part of Leadership Charlotte a couple of years ago, and we took a Strengths Finder. Uh, some of those things you do need to know about yourself. You need to know what your strengths are, right?
Mhm.
I think it's important that I don't think I needed an assessment to know that I was an influencer, though,
Right,
because
right.
I used to always say I could sell water, right? So
Mhm.
some things are kind of already known, but there are assessments. I'm going to go back to the couples things. When I meet with couples and really just individuals in the therapy arena, there's an assessment that talks about how we attach in relationships,
Okay.
right? I give everybody that for the most part,
Okay.
um, because how we attach in relationships dictates how we show up, dictates how we behave, how we respond to people. And we don't even know as a body of people that that science, that construct exists. So I teach people about that, help them understand their styles, and it really dictates a different way that they move in relationships
Okay.
and connecting with people.
So is there an assessment that you feel most people should take?
That's no, I don't, because it's so individualized, right? It depends on what's going on with that person. I mean, we have, I don't even know if I told you this. I teach at Northwestern University in their counseling program, and I teach career development. So
Well, I
I
did
teach.
my homework, so I already knew that you were
Oh, you
associated.
knew that? Okay,
Yeah.
right. So all we do is talk about the different assessments that are out there, right? I mean,
Okay.
there are interest profilers, there are values assessments, there are assessments that do the personalities, and it talks about your abilities, whether it's you're realistic or intuitive and things like that. So there are so many different types of assessments. And I think what you have to do is have a conversation with the person to figure out what's going on with them before you can say, this is a really good assessment for you.
Okay.
Right.
So, is there one that you can think of off the top of your head? And I am not trying to squeeze you. So just say, no, I got to think about it. So I'm not trying to do that. But
Mm,
let's say I really think that many people don't know their purpose.
yeah.
Maybe translated, they don't know their strengths.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's a translation or not, but what type of assessment is there an assessment for a person that says, I really don't know what I'm here for, or what I'm amazing at, or what I could be amazing at?
Sure. So the other thing about assessments to know is there's different types of assessments. There are qualitative assessments and quantitative. And the quantitative ones are the ones that are evidence based. They've been researched and proven to have, be valid and reliable and things like that. So that's like the DISC assessment, or if you're thinking about the Strengths Finders, they've done a lot of research and across cultures to make sure that there's some consistency in the responses, right? But then you have qualitative ones, and qualitative assessments are, open-ended questions. And so I bring that up to say that one of the first things you can do is you can have people write in narrative format, have people write their story. And in writing their story, we can give very pointed questions that we have them answer, review that, and that'll tell us a whole bunch. Oh
Oh
man, you
yeah,
don't realize you have strengths over here. So I'm a big proponent of using a lot of the qualitative work because it also involves the client,
right.
and yeah, and it really helps them start to be engaged in the process in a different way.
Okay, so it's gonna be a dumb question. That's why I'm laughing before I even come out of my mouth. So
Okay.
where does the 5 love languages assessment come in?
You
Is
know
that a
what? It comes in.
qualitative or quantitative? Is it something that you know people should take?
It's I believe that it's actually quantitative because I believe it's been researched and it's become evidence based, right?
Okay.
So, and it's important, right? It is important because we naturally give to other people in the way that we expect to receive.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
was
kind of
huge.
natural for us.
It was huge.
Yeah,
When somebody told me to take it, my
yeah.
ex,
Hmm.
my ex-wife, Jamie, she had me take it, and then she was reading a book, so I read the book, and then you
Hmm.
forget all about it, and then later, you come across it and you take it again because you can't remember what you were.
Yeah,
So I've taken
yeah,
it maybe 3 or 4 times, and every time it comes out exactly the same. Every time.
yeah,
Every
yeah,
time, no matter what age stage I am, it comes out the same. So I think it's pretty cool to uh,
yeah.
to understand that. And then the other part, as you just mentioned, is that how you are is how you expect other people to be, and when they're a different deal, it causes a problem if you're not conscious of that you're operating from 2 different entry points.
Yeah. And so, although we talk about we want to give it the way we receive it, should happen is you have to give it based on the way they need it. And that's counterintuitive to who we are. So,
Right.
it takes work, practice, and intention to give to that person based on their particular love languages. Like literally, your thought process is if that person needs words of affirmations, you're thinking, but don't you already know? You're like, I see you all the time. I always tell you look nice, like, why do I have to keep telling you that? You should already know. So I don't get any credit for this. I'm not, sponsored by them or anything, but they have an app called Love Nudge, and
Okay.
you put it on your phone and it nudges you to, yo, go do a word
Oh,
of affirmation.
really? So it's based on this assessment. And it'll tell you what you don't forget to send flowers. Don't forget to
Yes, yeah,
hi.
it does that.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yeah. You do
Interesting.
it together.
Love
It's really cool.
nudge. I'll
Love
put
nudge.
that, when I edit this, I'll put that up also so people can
Yeah.
So let's talk about us.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's true or not, but the feeling, that I have is that, and I don't even know what we're supposed to be called. I'd never pay attention to political correctness. I've said a few things, and my professional brother looked at me like, "Dude, you can't say that." And I never remember what it is, but it was something about either calling people black folks or colored folks. I can't remember. But he's like, "You can't call people." I'm like, "I don't know. I don't worry about it because I'm black." In any event, let's talk about us black folks, or whatever the politically correct term is. You want to go ahead and tell me what it is? What is it?
I like African American for public, but at the end of the day, when I'm at home, doesn't mean I'm black.
Okay.
So it
Right.
just
Cool.
depends on the room I'm in, I guess. And
Right.
if it's formal, I give us the formalized answer.
Okay. So,
but I do think it's a matter of preference.
Okay. Well, I don't worry about it because nobody's no singular entities write me my whole life paycheck. So I just do what I do. And if they don't like me, I'm not their person, and I'm good with that. Which took me a long time to get to, by the way. So anyway, I just have this feeling that well, it's not even a feeling about women. Black women are on the rise as far as their offerings to society. I would say it that way, and their place in society. And women are on the rise as their place in society. And I feel like Black culture and Blacks are more entertained, meaning that they have more entry into opportunity than ever before, even though things are still tough. What, from your perspective, is that a generic feeling? Is it something that you see in working with your clients? Is that impactful? Are there things that we should be doing that we're not doing to stay sane along the way? What's your thoughts on that?
So I've always been taught to never talk about sex, politics, and religion in public, right?
Okay. All right. So which one is it? Sex, politics, or religion?
Well,
my question pertains to none of those.
I know, but right. So I'm getting ready to add to that. So there are also a lot of personal opinions that I don't have for public consumption, right?
Gotcha. All right.
But I'm going to answer that. Right. But what I will say is that one of the things that has always been near and dear to me is I don't worry about the world's chatter. It's always about me versus me, and so can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about running our own race and not worry about that. Our goal is to land where we're going to be. And even though there may be some, we're hot right now, and eventually that expires. I don't think we stop running our race is my point.
I agree with that. I love that answer. That's a great answer. No, seriously, I'm not BSing you. That is a great answer because, the advice that I've given, or the platform that I've taken, the position that I've taken, people were going nuts when Trump was elected. People, and I know that's politics. I'm not really talking politics. Things that piss people off. Black Lives Matter. I mean, all the things. I'm like, okay, well, how does it affect you specifically? How can you overcome or continue to grow personally? And your personal growth dictates your circle. Your circle encompasses your kingdom. And as long as your queendom is tight, and you're a good person, keep moving. That's all I can tell you, because you can't allow inflation to dictate your heart or your head or your actions. You still have to go out. I got interviewed yesterday by the local news station about the economy. And they're asking me about all these things. And I'm like, go make more money, go be more productive, go deliver more services. And that was, I had to answer all the politically correct way, and I had to answer the professional way. But the undertone that I kept coming back to was, go do you. right? Go
Yeah.
do you and figure out how things affect you. How does inflation affect you? And if it is, how do you overcome that problem for you in your
Yeah.
circle? And once you do it successfully, then you can share with somebody else how you did that if they are interested. So I love the answer. I seriously, I love that answer. So
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, I mean, I think we spend so much time looking at, like you said, I'm not big on social media either. I do it because I have to.
me too.
Anything that's there, it's work for me. My
Mhm.
professional page, my personal page is really my professional page at
Me
the end of the
too.
day, right?
Me
You
too.
know,
Yep.
you share a little bit of your personality and your personal about your personal life because people need to know, love, and trust you in that way.
Right.
But that's it, right? Very guarded because I like my privacy. But at the end of the day, we have to not get caught up in what we see so much and
Hmm.
have an impact on, well, what does that mean for us? How
Right.
does that allow us to move? I do it to a fault. I'll have somebody tell me, oh, go look at this therapist, they got this whole philosophy. I can't look
Yeah,
at
I'm
it
good.
because
I'm good.
I need to run my own race.
Right.
Not that they're a challenge. I need to clear my head because I'm always coming up with ideas and I need them to be mine. And
Yep.
so
No, you're 100% right. I told you I had a speaking engagement last Friday, and I
mhm,
spoke to, I don't know, I think 80 stroke nurses. And my sister sent me some information, and she goes, "Oh, check this out. You're gonna really love this. It's like right in line with some of the things you talk about." And
yeah.
I was preparing for this speaking engagement, and I'm listening to this in the background, like you talk about background stuff. And
Mhm.
at one point, I cut this off because
Yeah.
it's not contradicting, but it's information I don't really need. Number one, and number two, if I do need a nugget or two, because I believe you can always learn something from somebody else,
Yeah.
it's interfering with my mental flow for what I am capable of doing at a high level. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that because it's just me. I mean, like people get offended sometimes, and I'm like, no, I can't
I
listen to
love
that.
it.
But
I love it when they get offended. I'm like, I don't, you know what I tell people all the time. They're
uh-huh.
talking about Elon Musk, like, oh, he's influencing Bitcoin. Oh, he's going to do Twitter. I said, let me ask you a question. Is Elon Musk in California talking about you right now? You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be a no. That'd be a
Mhm.
matter of fact, absolute no. So why are you talking about somebody that doesn't affect your life? And why
Right.
are you carrying this conversation on social media, in your relationships, at work? I mean, it has no bearing on you being productive and delivering your
Right.
greatness to the world. And they think about it and they go, and I used to always say that guys would gather around the water cooler and talk about Larry Bird or Michael Jordan. I'm like, those guys aren't sitting around talking about you. They're in the gym working out to get better.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, listen, I've enjoyed talking to you. And
Yeah.
I
It's been
will
great.
put up how people can get to you.